You have a very distinguished academic career, but I'm aware that early in your career, you completed a residency in the US Public Health Service. And this involved working with the Indian Health Service, that's the service for Native Americans. For UK and other European viewers, can you explain to us what the Public Health Service is in the United States? And also, what you learned from this experience and what, if any, influence this had on your later career?
Yeah, the U.S. Public Health Service is a federal agency that addresses public health issues in the United States. For example, the National Institutes of Health are part of Public Health Service. The CDC, the Center for Disease Control, is another branch. The healthcare that's provided in federal prisons is a branch, and then the Indian Health Service is a branch. And most, not all, but most of the professionals and scientists are commissioned into the uniformed services, just like military officers. It's not a branch of the military, but it's a branch of the uniformed services. And this was I graduated with my Bachelor of Science in Pharmacy in 1974. And we'd had a speaker come speak about practice in the Indian Health Service, and I did some reading. And I learned that the level of pharmacy practice in the United States, at least, was probably higher in Indian Health Service than it was anywhere else in the United States. And so I applied, and I got accepted. And I went to Gallup, New Mexico, the Gallup Indian Medical Center, which is the referral hospital for the Navajo Indian Reservation. And to put things in context, the Navajo Indian Reservation is very, very large. It's, for those that have any understanding of US geography, it's about the same size as the state of West Virginia. And it's highly rural. And in fact, it was pretty much a third world country inside the United States, and northern Arizona, western New Mexico, and a bit of southern Utah. Very few towns, a few little villages. Most of the people lived in the country. Over half of them didn't have running water or plumbing, or they might use a community well that was within a 30 or 40 mile radius. And so there were a lot of communicable diseases that were associated with general poor public health. At that point in time, most didn't speak English, and so it was really an ideal place for me to learn.
Are there any episodes that stand out in your memory?
In fact, I'd maybe been at Gallup for about 2 or 3 weeks, and there was a code called for somebody that had arrested, and the supervisor told me that I was up. And so it was on the pediatrics ward, and it was a 13-year-old Navajo girl who had arrested, and the infectious disease physicians thought perhaps that she might have bubonic plague, which of course I was taught in pharmacy school was a disease of third world countries, and the parents did not speak any English, and there is no word in Navajo for autopsy. The closest thing would be butcher. And obviously, you're not going to ask a parent whether you can butcher their daughter. And so we did CPR on this girl for at least 2 hours, so that the infectious disease physicians could collect all the samples that they needed to be able to confirm that she had bubonic plague, and also to confirm that she did not have pneumonic plague, which would have made it highly contagious. But I was exposed to her saliva and such, because I was helping do CPR as well as take care of the meds, because people get tired. And it turned out that she had bubonic plague, and I had to take tetracycline for prophylaxis.
That is an absolutely amazing story.
It was an interesting introduction to practice for a brand new pharmacist. One of our physicians that year actually had bubonic plague. He got it. I learned a lot about the life cycle of the bubonic plague on the reservation. Unlike the plague in Europe in the Middle Ages, where the fleas were on rats, on the Navajo reservation they're on prairie dogs. People's dogs would go out and hunt, and they'd stick their heads down the prairie dog mounds, and the fleas would jump on them, and they bring them home. And this physician lived sort of on the outskirts of town, and his dogs ran around in the hills, and his dog came home, the flea jumped on him and bit him, and fortunately, he responded well to treatment.